Hello all, this is James Johnson, aka Sulphur Blade, and it's been a while since I've dived into our pop cultural topics on this channel. Usually when I get involved in those types of topics, it's on the, media, sci-fi, something revolving usually the universes of Star Wars or Star Trek. And this will not be an exception. This is very much going to be on the topic of Star Wars. Let me get rid of the disclaimer. Alright, so it's come to my attention that we have learned some things about the upcoming Star Wars movie. In particular, it further destroys the character that is Luke Skywalker. So, I want to talk about that a little bit, and I also want to talk about the Mandalorian. I think we'll start with the Mandalorian. New TV show on Disney. It's actually really good, though. I would wait till I think somewhere in the end of December and do your free Disney trial so that you can binge watch all of the Mandalorian. Because as far as I'm concerned, the rest of Disney can go fuck itself. Disney used to be a great company in the eyes of most people. Used to be a great company in my eyes. When I was a kid, the mention of Disney, that brought up twinkles of Disneyland in my eyes, and Disney World, and just how I've been to both, actually, Disney World, Disneyland. I've even been to Disney in Japan. Felt very lucky to have the opportunity to go to those, though. For being a company that is so good for kids for so long, they sure have figured out how to ruin the stories and dreams from my childhood so very effectively. It's strangely, it's strange how a kids company that is responsible for Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, etc., can come along and ruin Luke Skywalker. So, I don't know. The generation of today, the 20-somethings stuck in their cell phone, walking around with, their eyes glued at their cell phone as they play with it. I don't understand this generation. I really don't. And they know nothing about our childhood heroes, obviously. And I think for many of us, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, they could easily have been childhood heroes, depending on your age. Luke, Star Wars in and of itself was a simple story. Rescue the princess, save the universe from evil. But for some reason, this outside group of politically minded people, in this case, I think we can aptly call them feminists, decided they needed to infiltrate Hollywood, infiltrate Disney, infiltrate Star Wars. And it's not just Star Wars. They've infiltrated Star Trek. They've infiltrated Doctor Who. They've infiltrated just about every IP that we grew up watching in order to tear down the patriarchy, as they say, in the name of feminism, which is just it's a concept that is so bizarre in the current world we live in. Women have more rights than men. Everywhere you turn, women have everything for them, and men are, well, men are shit. Men are treated as second-class citizens. And I don't understand it, because Star Wars was not a movie that displayed a patriarchy. If you're wondering what that picture in the top left is, that is Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma was the ruler, the leader of the rebellion, and the first president of the follow-on government that came in after the destruction of the Empire. She was the matriarch of Star Wars. Star Wars was not a patriarchy. Well, it could be considered a patriarchy if you look at it as if the Emperor was the patriarch because he was of the male gender, but the entire movie was about destroying the Emperor, so in a way you could say that Star Wars was a movie that tore down the patriarchy and made room for a matriarchy. But that's not enough, evidently, for feminists. Feminists have evidently decided that we must completely destroy Luke Skywalker, the hero of the story. He's not the only hero of the story, because you had Han Solo, another guy. You had Chewbacca, a Wookiee. R2-D2, a droid. C-3PO, a droid. You had Lando Calrissian, a black male, which was pretty trendy at the time, right? And you had front and center Carrie Fisher's very strong performing character, Princess Leia. So it wasn't like the Star Wars cast was predominantly male and was a story about the patriarchy. If anything, it was a story about the matriarchy, as I just demonstrated. But for some reason, the feminists of today have decided that that's not good enough. But even though this movie wasn't made with any type of political agenda at all, it was made to be a good movie, which is what movies should be made for. Movies should not be made with a political agenda in mind. But I digress. Then we have the wonderful Kathleen Kennedy, who came in and helped to start destroying everything. She decided the Force needed to be female. She brought in directors that decided that Luke Skywalker needed to be an old hermit that thought about killing his nephew because he sensed the darkness inside of him. Luke Skywalker, who's supposedly a Jedi Master at this point. Let's think back to Yoda, a Jedi Master so powerful that he could foresee the future. He could expect the unexpected. Let's think back to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Again, he had some ability to foresee, even though he was not technically a Jedi Master. He did start Luke's training and Yoda finished it. Luke and Vader were, the Skywalkers, the Jedis whose midi-chlorine levels were off the chart. They were Jedis of unbelievable power. And Yoda recognized this in both of them. Yoda was one of the most powerful Jedis ever, but supposedly Vader and Luke were even more powerful than Yoda, who in many different Star Wars movies kicked a lot of major butt. In fact, seeing Yoda kick butt in the last three, the three that were not the original trilogy, the three that they weren't quite as good as the original trilogy because they were filled with far too much special effects. But every Star Wars fan can agree that Yoda was almost always the shining highlight of those movies. Getting to see Yoda kick some butt was always cool. I think, for the most part, all the Star Wars fans I know consider the original trilogy to be far and away the best movies. Because of the chemistry of the cast, because of the acting, because of the camaraderie on the screen, because it just was quality Hollywood movies that hard to come across like that. The next three were so filled with special effects that they didn't allow for that type of on-screen chemistry. The casts just weren't as cohesive as Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford were together. But I digress. What ultimately does this boil down to? Luke Skywalker. He was a role model for an entire generation of kids. He was a hero for an entire generation of kids. Carrie Fisher was the princess that we dreamt about rescuing. I mean, looking at that picture, why wouldn't you want to dream about rescuing her, right? Yeah, Star Wars was just something incredible. And to see the character that was Luke Skywalker, the most optimistic, most non-cynical. So Han Solo came along and he brought in a cynical male character who was in stark contrast to the naive, hopeful character that Luke Skywalker was. And the contrast between the two of them with Han obviously being a little bit older and always referring to him as a kid, and Luke, just kind of rolling with the punches of being referred to as a kid, but still being very sure of himself, even though this alpha male there is kind of, giving him the what for. He's still strong enough in his self-confidence to retain his hopefulness, his belief in things becoming a better place, in the world becoming a better place. He is the most hopeful character in the Star Wars universe. He is the character that would not give up on his father, that believed he could turn Darth Vader from the dark side to the light side. But he instantly, in a momentary lapse of judgment, got so scared that Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, his nephew, his blood, would become evil to the extent of igniting his lightsaber when he wouldn't even ignite his lightsaber on Darth Vader. It was piss poor storytelling. The destruction of the Luke Skywalker character is horrible, but it hasn't stopped. Now, in the upcoming movie, evidently they're going to imply that Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master, hero of the Republic, the most hopeful, most good, wholesome person in the first 3 movies, was also a liar. He didn't only attempt to murder his nephew, he lied about it to his sister and his best friend, Han and Leia. I'm sorry, but I understand that there's going to be a younger generation that just, they don't look at Luke the way I might look at Luke. I understand that there's a whole group of bizarre, fanatical feminists that are running around in Hollywood trying to destroy everything that they touch. But at some point, enough is enough. At some point, something's got to give. I mean, The Mandalorian, which I also wanted to talk about, is an incredibly good TV show. I watched it thinking, okay, more Disney Star Wars trash, and I couldn't bring myself to say, no, this was Disney Star Wars trash. I actually it actually gave me some sort of faith that maybe somebody in Disney could do Star Wars right, because The Mandalorian was really good. It felt like being in the cantina. It felt like real Star Wars. It felt like some of the closest Star Wars I've seen to the original trilogy. And then when I go online, I discover that there's this crazy group of the crazy people trying to claim that, oh my god, The Mandalorian's horrible because there were no females in the first episode. There were no females in the second episode. And I'm just thinking to myself, what? is the whole world crazy? Is the whole world just freaking nuts? I think it is. I really think it is at this point. Hmm. I don't know what else to really say on this topic. But yeah, the new movie is going to destroy Luke Skywalker even more than they've already done. In the name of feminism. In the name of the matriarchy. Which is just absurd. Did everyone forget that Princess Leia was also a senator? Mon Mothma was the leader of the New Republic. Princess Leia went on to become the next leader of the New Republic. It's 2 strong female leaders in a row, but Star Wars is evidently needs the feminism hammer taken to it even more. Because it's obviously not matriarchal enough. Give me a break. Enough is enough. So, there was a time long ago, maybe when I was still a teenager or a kid, where some of this feminism messaging, I can remember there being feminism messaging in the 80s. I remembered that, and I was actually all for it. In the 80s, I think I was a feminist. Or, at least in the 80s, I could say I was a feminist and not think it was bad. In fact, I thought it was a good thing. I thought, equal rights for women made sense. Still think it makes sense. But at this point, I'm under the complete and total belief that women have had their equal rights for a long time now. And the group that's still running around trying to get equal rights for them is crazy. Because at this point, they're not trying to get equal rights. They're trying to get unequal rights. They just want women to rule the universe. They want women to be the greatest superheroes ever. And they don't even want women to have to work at it. They don't even want women to have to, have a story developed around them to make them a good character. Let's look at I wasn't going to go here, but let's look at our new female hero in the new Disney Star Wars universe, who can do no wrong and has had no training. She's just magically a Jedi. Because that's what feminists want. Feminists want to only see women in movies, and the women superheroes have to be the strongest, and they just have to be perfect because they're women, and they didn't need to actually develop to become a great superhero. They just were magically a great superhero because women are perfect. That's what the crazy feminists think these days, is that women are perfect. And men should not be in the shows at all. And if the show doesn't have a woman in it, oh my god, it's the worst thing ever. Cue Mandalorian. So that's where we are. The world is just crazy. Everything you see these days is crazy. We've got COPPA, where the FTC is trying to protect kids from having targeted advertisements against them while turning the internet into, or YouTube, while turning the YouTube creator community into a community that now has to throw random profane expletive rants into their programming in order to not be confused as being for kids. So in order to protect kids from horrible toy commercials targeted at them, we have to make all the programming on YouTube something that kids should not be able to watch. Yeah, we live in a sane universe. Anyway, I'm Jaames Johnson. I just wanted everyone to know that they're doing more to destroy the Luke Skywalker character in the upcoming movie. And The Mandalorian's actually a pretty good show, but it's on Disney. And at this point, Disney equals evil in my book. So I would wait till, again, the end of December when you can do the free trial and binge watch the whole show. Or find other clever ways of being able to see The Mandalorian without giving Disney your dollar. But yeah, that's really all I have to say on the topic. I'm Jaames Johnson, aka Sulphurblade. This is my content. Hopefully you're enjoying it. If so, please leave a like and subscribe. Until the next time, all. Peace.